Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Community Connections event. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Jeremy Capone. I am your Community Connections Program Coordinator. I'm also the Wellness Chef for the Cancer Rehabilitation and Survivorship Program. And I am super excited to be hosting today's Community Connections. We have some incredible presentations planned for you today. Throughout the next hour. And then we will jump into our cooking and nutrition demonstration that starts at around 12 p.m. Eastern time today. So thanks for joining. Just a few things. If you do have any questions throughout the presentations, you can use the chat function and you can ask your questions there. For some of the presentation, I think there will be someone from the organization there to be able to answer your question, which is great. And if not, then we can definitely get back to you if we don't know how to answer the question for you. But without further ado, we have a lot planned for today. We have presentations from Canadian Cancer Society and from Wellness Cancer Support Foundation. So we're going to get started. We're going to jump right into it with our first presentation. And we are super excited to be joined by Lacey Horta. She is the online community manager for the Canadian Cancer Society, and she is presenting on the Canadian Cancer Society, how we can help. So without further ado, Lacey, thank you.
Hello, my name is Lacey Horta, and I'm the online community manager for the Canadian Cancer Society's online forum, cancerconnection.ca. I'm part of a broader team at CCS who work to fulfill the organization's mission, which is to work in trusted partnership with donors and volunteers to improve the lives of all those affected by cancer through world-class research, transformative advocacy, and compassionate support. In addition to working at CCS, I also have experience as a caregiver and have walked alongside several family members and friends in their experience with cancer, so I know firsthand the importance and value of what we offer. The impact of cancer. For many, a diagnosis of cancer is life-altering. It creates waves of impact for both the individual diagnosed and their loved ones. Very little can prepare us to hear those words, "You have cancer." It is a time when people often need to reach out for support in ways they've never imagined. While it's not easy to ask for help, there are people and programs equipped to help navigate the informational, practical, emotional, and physical impacts of cancer. The pandemic has only heightened this and has changed the way in which care is provided. Let's start with information. You know the expression, knowledge is power. Well, information certainly does help people to understand their diagnosis, make informed decisions, and prepare for treatment and related side effects, and support their loved ones. Just as each person's diagnosis and experience with treatment is unique, so are the ways in which people cope. Some people prefer to process information independently and take comfort in research to understand and plan. For those who like research, our website, cancer.ca, provides credible information written in easy to understand language on a wide range of topics, including information on over 100 types of cancer, information for those living with advanced cancer, specific content addressing the unique physical, emotional, and practical needs. Cancer.ca also includes information on coping with changes, communication and relationships, intimacy, and body image. Last year, more than 16 million users accessed cancer.ca. 16 million. Amazing the impact of credible information being offered and shared through the site. We also know that there's a large amount of incorrect information out there, and much of it may not be even relevant to someone's unique situation. While Google may help with finding things like recipes, it's wise to seek out cancer-related information from credible sources such as your healthcare team, cancer.ca, or our cancer information helpline to inform a deeper understanding of your unique circumstances. We have publications available on cancer.ca in both English and French, and some select titles available in Chinese. We invite you to check them out and download them from cancer.ca. We know, too, that some people need some additional assistance to help locate and understand the information that's available, often described as learning the new language of cancer. That's why Our cancer information team is here to answer questions, provide information, and help locate resources. Team members offer knowledgeable and compassionate service. Available through our toll-free number, 1-888-939-3333, or by email at info@cancer.ca. There's also live chat with cancer information helpline agents available through our website at cancer.ca. For those who wish to communicate in a language other than English or French, we have an on-demand interpretation service available with over 150 languages, as well as TTY available. Last year, an estimated 35,000 individuals connected with our team through all modes of contact. We know there are many practical aspects to a cancer experience as well. Our Community Services Locator includes over 4,000 cancer-related records to help address these needs. People can research themselves through our website or with the assistance from our helpline team. They can identify services available both virtually and locally, including both CCS programs as well as those offered by other organizations and agencies. Some examples include emotional and support programs, home care, how to get to your cancer treatment, and where to find a wig or prosthesis. Last year, more than 68,000 users accessed our Community Services Locator. To highlight, more than 4,000 individuals benefited from our Canadian Cancer Society transportation services last year, including our volunteer driver program, Air Daffodil, and Travel and Treatment Fund. Approximately 4,500 individuals benefited from our Canadian Cancer Society lodges, a welcoming home away from home. We have lodges located in BC, Quebec, Newfoundland, and Nova Scotia. Our team's available to help assist those seeking accommodations outside of these areas to identify appropriate resources. For those who experience hair loss as part of their treatment, having a wig or head covering can be helpful. Being able to access these items during the pandemic, especially with limited resources, could be challenging. CCS's wig program remains available and is now offered virtually due to the pandemic. Free wigs and head coverings, as well as breast accessories, are available through simple online order form or by calling our helpline team, with either delivery or curbside pickup available depending on your location. Nearly 2,000 wigs and approximately 1,300 breast accessories were provided free of charge to people across Canada last year alone. Alongside the information and practical concerns, we know that when faced with cancer, people reach out to their family, friends, and social circles for support. Psychosocial professionals, such as social workers, can offer specialized guidance and assistance, but there are some things best understood by those who have walked the walk in similar shoes, those who've been there and get it. To help enable people to connect with their peers around a shared experience, the Canadian Cancer Society offers a safe and supportive online peer support community, cancerconnection.ca, along with our French sister site, parlonscancer.ca. The purpose of our community is to provide a healthy, safe, and constructive environment for discussion, support, and the exchange of information about managing cancer in your life. The community helps bridge gaps such as geography, rare diagnosis, or other unique situations, and is available free of charge 24 hours a day, offering a collection of experiential information, lived experience, and hope to all those who find it. Almost 3/4 of people accessing our community are coming from a mobile or tablet device, which means they can access the site when they need it. During the pandemic, the ease of access has been particularly helpful to help increase people's sense of connection and help decrease their sense of isolation. Our staff-led moderation team help ensure the community remains safe and that no person goes unsupported and no post goes unanswered. We know that more than 320,000 users accessed Cancer Connection last year. These are people from all walks of life, ranging in age from 18 to over 75. Another really great strength of this engaged community is how often we see people who come with questions realize they have something to share with others as well, bringing the value of peer support to life. We're here because we've been there. This last area of peer support work that I want to highlight involves training and networking opportunities for peer facilitators of our community-based peer support groups. In-person group meetings have been limited by the pandemic to help keep our communities safe. Many have adapted to be offered online or connecting by phone, and some have gone on hiatus. Through our peer facilitator training program, we work to help increase the quality and availability of peer support in communities across Canada. We've recently launched a new online training series for our peer facilitators, along with a community of practice, and would be pleased to welcome new and existing facilitators to the program. If you're in contact with people who are interested in starting a local peer support group for people with cancer, or are already doing so, we'd love to connect with them. I hope this overview has helped illustrate our services and the differences we're making together for those living with and beyond cancer. Included here are contact details for many of the programs, and you can learn more on our website at cancer.ca under How We Can Help. If you have questions, please feel free to reach out to me by email at lacey.horta@cancer.ca.
So, welcome back again. Thank you again, Lacey, for that presentation and providing some incredible information resources from the Canadian Cancer Society. Thanks for joining us today. I know there were a few people jumping in and out of the live stream. If you could type in the chat again, the website, and also we will be posting all that information in the description section in this video if you are not watching it live, but you are watching it later. So again, thank you to the Canadian Cancer Society for all that you do, and thank you to Lacey for that presentation. All right, moving on to our next presentation from the Cancer Support Foundation. So this is a presentation from Manesha Khazanchi, and she is the program manager of the physical and functional programming at Wellspring Cancer Support Foundation, and is also a registered kinesiologist and clinical exercise physiologist. And we are super excited that she is joining us for a presentation today on cancer-related fatigue. And I'm just going to read a quick little bio she put together. So cancer-related fatigue is a very complex symptom that many people diagnosed with cancer may endure during their healing journey. They may experience cancer-related fatigue during treatment, many months or years post-treatment, or could be an ongoing symptom of their chronic cancer. So this conversation from Manesha will look at understanding the symptom. She's going to share a few examples of ways that you may be able to manage it, and also discuss Wellspring's 4-week cancer-related fatigue series. So thank you again, Manesha. I will throw it to you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Manesha Khazanchi. I'm a program manager at Wellspring Cancer Support Foundation, and I specifically help to support our physical and functional programs that we offer online and in person. By background, I'm actually a registered kinesiologist and exercise physiologist, and I've actually been working in oncology for about 13 years now, and many of those years at Wellspring. I'm very happy to join you today and share some information around the topic of cancer-related fatigue. To get us started, I wanted to share that through the many years that I've been working in oncology, the number one symptom that shows up over and over and over again is actually fatigue. It's one of the questions we ask in our assessments when we're meeting someone interested in starting to exercise. But it's also a symptom that's often underreported, especially in the medical community, because often there's other symptoms that do get highlighted, whether it's pain or certain types of discomfort or nausea. And often there's a little bit more support offered. So when we talk about cancer-related fatigue, I'm going to be sharing quite a bit about how to identify it, understanding the complexity of why it may show up in your life. We'll also be talking about ways of managing it. And we'll also have an opportunity to chat a little bit about Wellspring's cancer-related fatigue series that we offer. So to get us started, I'm going to share my screen. All right, so thank you again so much for joining me in this lovely conversation on cancer-related fatigue. And I hope this is a stepping stone towards wanting to sort of self-investigate or discuss this further with your team, your physiotherapist, your occupational therapist, your social worker, your medical oncologist, your physiatrist. I hope this is the beginning of furthering this conversation. So as I said earlier, we're going to come to define cancer-related fatigue. We're going to be talking specifically about what energy conservation means, We'll talk about the different ways that the symptom can be managed. And we'll also have an opportunity to discuss Wellspring's cancer-related fatigue series. So to get us started, if you're new to Wellspring, Wellspring is a non-profit organization, and we basically are able to support our programs through donations. So we're not affiliated with any corporation or company or essentially government funded at all. And so we actually have physical centers. So in the GTA, we have our Westerkirk location, which is near Sunnybrook Hospital. We also have our Oakville location, which is our Birmingham Gilligan House. And then we also have affiliate Wellsprings, which is Brampton, Niagara, London, Edmonton, and Calgary. And moving forward, we also ended up moving into more of a virtual cancer support offering, which actually launched in fall of 2019. So just before the pandemic, we'd already started to introduce and set ourselves up with an online platform. So we actually now serve most of the provinces and territories around Canada. And we do our best to make sure that we support those in rural communities that may not actually have access to cancer-related support services. And based on our in-person programming, we've been able to take that original programming and offer it online. Up to 94% of our programs are now offered online. So our Well on the Web programming is our virtual platform. So what we offer are interactive group programs, webinars, individual support through phone calls or through Zoom calls. We also offer self-paced webinars and audio resources and downloadable resources. So if you're looking for support in the middle of the night in terms of meditation or a yoga practice, you can check us out online on our YouTube channel too. So essentially, our programs are here to serve and to support those people diagnosed with cancer at any stage of their cancer journey. And we also do our best to support their caregivers too. And we do that in a way that our programs are are designed to support those who are looking for more emotional supportive programming, physical and functional programming, practical support, informational support, and social support. Some additional streams that we offer are we have programming for those who've been diagnosed with chronic cancer, so long-term cancers. Those can include peer support, support groups, as well as chronic cancer coaching. For those members who have been diagnosed with an advanced cancer, which is either a stage 4 cancer or metastatic cancer, we offer support groups, art therapy workshops, parent support groups, as well as an Oasis exercise online programming. And we also do continue to support those who are bereaved, whether it's family or friend members, family or friends that have lost important people in their lives. So we offer peer support as well as group-based support. So now we're going to shift into our conversation of the day, which is cancer-related fatigue. So what we really understand about cancer-related fatigue is that it's actually a feeling of tiredness that doesn't go away, not with rest, not with sleep, and it often can interfere with someone's essentially their normal day, their normal activities of daily living. And so what we really understand is that within the context of feeling tired, the frequency could be different each day. The intensity can look different within the day or days within the week or months. And we often recognize that this can cause quite a bit of distress. So when we think about what are the causes, what are the factors that are related to cancer-related fatigue, it is quite complex. The thought process from decades ago was the belief that essentially having cancer treatment was enough to, relay the fact that, fatigue is normal. And there was almost this sense of, there was almost this understanding that, at a certain point, one would get over it. And I'm putting that in air quotes because I've heard over the many years that, whether it's family members or sometimes even medical professionals who say, after a month or 2 months, you should be able to get over it and get back to your normal life. Or those members who have shared with us that, they may look different. Maybe their hair is growing out. Maybe their skin feels better. Maybe they've been able to put their weight back on. And essentially they physically look different, or what one would consider well, but internally they're really struggling with their fatigue level. So what we realize is it could be related to one of these factors that you see in this diagram, or it could be some or all of these factors that can be related to why someone might experience cancer-related fatigue. And this picture here is from the Canadian Partnership Against Cancer. So some of the factors include having cancer right now in your body. Cancer-related fatigue could also be related to the fact that you've experienced cancer treatment, whether you're on treatment now or if it was months ago or years ago. It could also increase the risk if you're experiencing pain, if you're anemic, which means you have a low blood cell count, red blood cell count. You may have experienced fatigue before even having treatment or before your cancer diagnosis. If you're having other medical health issues such as diabetes, cardiovascular disease, COPD, this could be in addition to the fatigue level you're experiencing. Maybe right now your activity level is low, you're a little bit more sedentary. That can impact your fatigue level. If you're experiencing any nutritional problems, such as having low appetite, or certain foods are making you feel more lethargic, or maybe your taste buds have changed, and therefore you're not feeling comfortable with food. Also, if you're on a cocktail of different medications, if you've been assigned pain medication with sleep medication with other sorts of medication, sometimes that can have an impact on your fatigue level. We also recognize that emotional distress, if you're feeling anxious, if you're feeling depressed, that also plays a big role into the level of fatigue you might be experiencing. And then we also recognize that sleep issues, having problems falling asleep, maintaining a deep sleep through the night, can also impact your fatigue level, how refreshed you feel, how your level of vitality the next day can be deeply impacted by that. So again, coming back to this picture, it's not necessarily pointing to just one thing, but it could be multiple things. And one example is if you're experiencing pain, for example, either neuropathy, so numbness, tingling in your hands, or sharp pain in your feet, you might be less likely to want to be active. Maybe your pain worsens at night, so you're not sleeping as well. Maybe you've started a new medication for your neuropathy, and one of the side effects is fatigue. So we recognize that there are multiple factors that can play a role in this. So what we know is that everyone's cancer journey can look quite different. Even those who've had the exact similar diagnosis or similar treatment protocol might have a different experience with their cancer journey. So on a physical level, someone might experience having pain. Again, we're just talking about fatigue in this presentation, but they may be experiencing urinary incontinence, erectile dysfunction, joint pain, neuropathy, weight gain, weight loss. On a mental level, there are people who are experiencing brain fog, so difficulty with concentration, multitasking, having discomfort with their memory. And then, of course, the emotional side of it, which is maybe experiencing anxiety, depression, or low affect. So we're going to start off a little bit around defining energy conservation. So an important skill set, an important understanding around how we manage our day is reflecting on the energy that we use. And this comes up a lot in conversation when we talk about the schedule that we have, how we feel when we first wake up in the morning, and how does that change throughout the day based on maybe the activity that we have or certain things we have to accomplish, or how well we slept at night will determine the energy that we have during the day. So when we think about energy conservation, I'd like us to take a second to really visualize what that could look like. So if I took a cup of water, I have a full cup of water here, and I filled it to the top. And if we think about the energy being the water, so we filled it up, and if we thought about how do I make sure that I have enough water in this cup to last me for the entire day? So some of us might wake up in the morning and actually have a decent amount of energy. And we often use the 0 to 10 scale, 0 meaning no issues with tiredness, feeling good energy, 10 being extremely exhausted, feeling very uncomfortable. And so if we're waking up with a decent amount of energy, some of us might decide that this is the time where I want to do some grocery shopping, cook a meal, do our laundry, and we get depleted so quickly. So essentially we drank all that water in the first 2 hours of being awake. So if we think about energy conservation, we think about how do we really look at our day and our week and plan it out accordingly so that we don't feel depleted right away. And it's very normal for a lot of our members to experience wanting to accomplish tasks because we have more energy. But then later they might say, I paid for it because then it took me 2 days to recover because I ended up wanting to do more than my body was essentially, informing me I was able to do. So when we think about energy conservation, we think of the 4 Ps, which is plan, prioritize, pace, and position, which is body position. So let's look at each factor here. So when we think about planning, we really think about how do we plan our week? How do we essentially space out any of the more difficult, strenuous, harder activities? And how do we make sure that within the week, within the day, we really identify where we can fit that in? So if these are things we have to accomplish, whether it's grocery shopping, whether for some of us it might be laundry or meal prep is a priority for a lot of people, of course, we really decide within the day, within the week, how we're going to fit that in. The next is prioritizing. So what actually has to be done? So there's a difference between what in our mind might tell us, well, this is important to me. I've always done this. Every Saturday, I've spent my entire day cleaning the house. But if we think about prioritizing, we might have to just break that down to building that list and highlighting, okay, what actually we have to do. We have to mail that letter. We have to pay that bill. You might have young kids at home or grandkids at home, and you have to make sure that a meal is ready for them at the right time that they would typically eat or you're typically eating. And that might be where you're spending your energy. The next part is pacing. How does your day look? Are you able to integrate rest breaks through the day? And this might be really challenging depending on how rest and restoring yourself was communicated to you through your childhood, what you may have witnessed within your own families. Some people grew up where rest was not an accessible term. It wasn't available. If you're maybe a new immigrant, for example, and you've come to a country and you're really looking to support your family, as a child, you may have witnessed that and noticed where rest was just not a part of the conversation because there was so much to do and accomplish. So sometimes in our body now, it just doesn't always feel accessible. Whereas when we discuss pacing, we talk about not just what can I do and where to fit it in my schedule, but where can I fit in rest? Where can I fit in the opportunity to recover? So if I did choose to do something that was a little bit busier or harder to do, am I making sure that I've only chosen that one task and I've given myself 1 to 2 hours to rest, recover, snap, close my eyes, reducing or letting go of shame around napping during the day. So that's really what pacing can look like. It can also be, avoiding excessive bending. So making things accessible based on your height, making sure that you're reaching and carrying things that are safe for you, making sure if it's available for you to sit as much as you can during tasks, whether it's childcare where you have your child, rather than picking them up, are they able to slide onto your lap? Are you able to prep and cut your meals at a table where you're seated? And then coming back to breaks, are breaks available for you? Is it something that you need your timer? Do you give yourself permission without guilt to nap? And then finally, we talk about body position. So our body mechanics play a huge role with how efficiently we're able to breathe, for example. So depending on your posture, so right now, if you're sitting on a couch and you're in a really soft couch where your body's really curved forward, what essentially might be happening is that we might be, not necessarily processing this in the moment, but our rib cage might be pushing down on our diaphragm, and we might actually not be able to breathe fully at our full capacity to the extension of our lungs. And we may be using more of our upper respiratory muscles. And some people might notice that they're doing this because they have a tight jaw or they feel limited range of motion in their neck. And some people might notice that they're short of breath. And those people who might be resting on their couch or in really soft, cushy chairs where their posture is impacted, they might not necessarily feel rested after they stand up and walk around. They might feel even more tired. So body position is really important, making sure that you're, if you're sitting for a longer period of time, if you're watching a TV show, that you keep some pillows on your back, straighten your spine, but in a way that still feels comforting for you. That includes a sleeping position. That includes if you're cutting up some vegetables, making sure that your spine is somewhat upright. Also knowing that if you're bending down to reach an object, we bend through our knees. We keep that basket or that object close to our bodies before we stand up. Those are all great strategies to relieve some of the fatigue and the discomfort that might show up, that might manifest from just being in a healthier body position. And you might end up learning quite a bit about that if you're choosing like an exercise program. You might learn a little bit about body positions and what does it feel like in your body to be straight or straighter. It might not be something that feels very natural to you, and it might require you to build some muscle and strength to be able to feel that in your body. So this is essentially what we call the 4 Ps of energy conservation. So next we move on to strategies. So there are multiple strategies involved in helping to manage cancer-related fatigue, because those of us in this space right now may be experiencing chronic cancer or have an advanced cancer where maybe their fatigue level might not change with a change of medication, or it may not necessarily change based on the treatment that they're on. And essentially, they may be people who are, whether it's temporarily or recognizing the permanency of their fatigue level. And so learning to manage the experience that you have right now can play a big role in how you get through day to day in a way that feels that you're still contributing, that you still feel like you still hold purpose in your day. And so when we think about that, there are multiple strategies that we can use. And if you do plan to join one of our Wellspring series talks on cancer-related fatigue, we go into so much detail of each of these topics. So bathing, for example, we really talk about how to bathe or take a shower in a safe way, because I have heard time and time again how fatiguing it is to bathe. So essentially thinking about the time, when do you want to schedule yourself for a bath? And a lot of people actually prefer to do it in their evening because it helps them get into a deep rested state that they want to be able to feel that tired to fall asleep. Essentially, another suggestion is rather than using a towel to dry yourself off, when you safely come out of your tub, maybe you're just taking a robe and you're sitting on your toilet and you're just resting, taking a couple deep breaths before you dab yourself, or you take your towel to dry your hair, but recognizing that there's opportunities to pace within the time that you are bathing. Essentially, when you're looking at cooking, so when it comes to cooking, we could be talking about preparing meals. We could be talking about even the cognitive fatigue that comes from planning a meal, making sure you have the groceries available for you. So cooking can look like many different things. And essentially, as we talked about, one way to think about it is like really breaking down what cooking means to you. So maybe one day is into shopping, whether it's buying some frozen foods, buying some fresh foods, and having that as one separate day. Maybe the following days when you do a lot of your prep work, where you may be cutting your veggies and having that set for you. And then essentially maybe a few hours later, that's when you're, open to starting to cook those. And thinking about making a meal that includes your protein and carbohydrates all in it, and healthy fats are all placed in it. And what's really beautiful is in our cancer-related fatigue series, we have one talk specifically with our dietitian who talks about everything related to nutrition and cancer-related fatigue. Next is we talk about house cleaning. And for some of us in this group, that might be such an important part of how we stay connected to our life at home. Maybe we grew up with Saturdays or Sundays being the days that we clean up. Maybe we don't feel well, or we feel more fatigued from looking at our space that feels more cluttered or doesn't feel as clean. And so essentially housekeeping could be a matter of using a long-handled duster, considering using a steamer instead of a mop, for example, or essentially even using a carpenter's apron, which is basically an apron with lots and lots of pockets, where you're able to keep everything on you so you're not going back and forth between different rooms to, pick up your spray bottle or pick up your rag. So those are just some options. And we're going to come back to this over and over again, but essentially, if it's available, asking for help. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that as we get through the next few strategies. So the next one is we're going to talk about childcare. So for some of us in this group, maybe we are still supporting our children, our young children, or our teens. Maybe we're grandparents where we play a big role in supporting our grandchildren, or we happen to be neighbors that are supporting other people dealing with cancer. And essentially, when we talk about childcare, we can be talking about meal preparation. We can be talking about how do we incorporate a nap where we still have young kids around, and not feeling ashamed of putting the TV on or putting an iPad on and having them play an activity or watch something while you catch up on a half an hour nap, or pre-setting up a couple different stations around your house, little centers where maybe there's a reading section or a coloring book section or playing with blocks in another area. So things are preset. So that child or those children have access to a few different activities so you can sit and rest and supervise that way. The other strategies is really essentially considering mindfulness, whether that's through meditation or yoga or joining a Tai Chi or Chi Life class. And really what it comes down to is recognizing the role our nervous system plays on our fatigue level. And mindfulness really helps calm our stress response. And for some of us, our fight and flight response stays on, that switch remains on, even if we're not in any immediate danger. For some of us, for most of us, essentially, you might still be experiencing some underlying stress or discomfort or nervousness about your cancer journey, about the risks around a reoccurrence. And essentially, there can be a lot of internal wear and tear that comes from, those mental thoughts around feeling stressed out about it. And when you experience that, sometimes it also manifests in the body as fatigue too. And so when you're choosing to try a visualization class, a meditation class focused on mantras or chanting or breath work, or you join a yoga class where you're just doing some gentle yoga practice, the idea is to calm that nervous system down. That fight and flight response gets an opportunity to turn off for a while, whether it's for an hour or 15 minutes or for 3 hours, however long your body takes to adapt to that feeling of deep rest and acceptance. And adding to mindfulness, for some of us in this space, you might actually say, well, I've given it a chance and it actually makes me feel nervous or more anxious. And that's where I introduce the importance of talk therapy. And at Wellspring, we offer peer support, which is our members that have, had an opportunity to do our Wellspring programming and now want to give back. They have a very specific style of training that they do to offer talk-based, I won't call it therapy, but talk-based conversations to those members that are experiencing distress around their cancer journey. And these peer support volunteers have gone through it. They understand it. They're maybe they're on the other side of it, and they can be really that supportive, that support system for you. But we also at Wellspring offer short-term counseling with either our psychotherapist or our psychologist. And we offer up to 3 sessions for free. And essentially, if you've grown up with trauma, childhood trauma, or trauma that's happened later in life, and it's been really hard to navigate those experiences, and cancer is now another trigger to those experiences you've had in the past, being able to navigate that with a professional can make such a big difference. And it's a great opportunity to take a step forward towards mindfulness. So for some of us, we might be starting with some talk therapy. And then when we've realized and sort of connected back to why we feel that level of distress, where did that come from? Can I feel safe within my body? Then some of us might be more likely to join a mindfulness-based program at that point. So there's no harm in taking a route that works for you. And then essentially the next section I'd like to talk about is sleep hygiene. So sleep hygiene is, what does the last hour and a half to 2 hours of your evening look like before you fall asleep? And it's basically, what is the routine that you've set up? So for some of us, we might be on our cell phones up until our eyes close. For some of us, maybe we've chosen one yoga pose or chamomile tea. For some of us, we just make sure after dinner, we've gone for a beautiful walk, and immediately we come in, we put our pajamas on, turn the lights off, and we read a book. So sleep hygiene is, how do we get our bodies to calm down, to feel centered, to feel like we're in tune with wanting to fall asleep. And so that could have something to do with the time that you eat dinner. It could have something to do with a certain activity you've chosen, whether it's journaling or meditation or yoga, or reading a book to help wind yourself down. Maybe it's making yourself a peppermint tea or chamomile tea to really calm your digestion down and calm your nervous system down. And that can essentially help you get your body ready to fall asleep. And what we know is that if you try to sleep at the same time every day and try to wake up at the same time every day, even if you're not back to work or back to school, but you've set that schedule, you're more likely to have more positive experiences with your sleep, getting into a deeper night's sleep. And then essentially another strategy that usually shocks quite a few people is the value of exercise, or increasing the amount of movement that you're currently doing. And what's amazing about exercise is that there's so much evidence, there's so much peer-reviewed research that says, if you are experiencing cancer-related fatigue, please consider exercising. And in our program, in our 4-week series, we have one of our workshop days out of the 4 is just on exercise, how to get started, how to feel safe returning back, what is the right exercise for you to consider doing if you're experiencing very intense levels of fatigue. But essentially, at this point, anyone, based on if that's your personal goal, can attempt to return back to some form of exercise. And it might not be what you were doing before. And that's where, whether it's Wellspring or another program, exercise program, but if you're working with people who have a professional background in oncology and exercise, they might actually be a great stepping stone for you to return back to your gym or start a home program. So I want to dive a little bit deeper into cancer and exercise. And so what do we know are the benefits of exercise? We know that a lot of people report that they've seen an improvement in their body image and their self-esteem, a better sleep, better appetite, improvement in their overall physical strength, their energy level feels better. They notice a reduction in their anxiety or level of depression. There are many people who report feeling an improvement in their cognitive health, and then just overall quality of life, their ability to return back to important tasks that were important to them, whether it's, house cleaning, meal prep, socializing with friends and family. So many reasons why exercise can be really supportive at any point in your journey, whether you're choosing to do it while you're on treatment, if you've completed treatment, or if you're years post-treatment. Anytime you decide is going to be a valuable time for your body to engage in it. So I wanted to share one piece of research about exercise for the management of cancer-related fatigue for adults specifically. So I chose to show you a meta-analysis, which is basically looking at 56 different randomized controlled trials. So just in case you're not sure what a randomized controlled trial is, it's basically a research study where when you join the study, you're either placed into a control group or an experimental group. If you're in the control group, your researcher or the person that's leading this intervention might say, well, do what you usually do. If you're going for a walk, go for a walk. If you're practicing yoga, do it. But if you don't want to, you don't have to. And they give you a survey at the beginning of the program. And then by the end of the research study, they give you a follow-up survey about your experience. And they'll might even do some fitness testing on you. Now, the other group, which is the experimental group, actually follows through on the protocol that the researcher might have you do. So if you join a yoga class, you'll actually be doing the 8 weeks of yoga. If you're doing an exercise resistance training program where you're weight training for 12 weeks, well, you'd actually be participating in those 12 weeks. So in this study, in this protocol, the researchers took 56 different research randomized controlled trials, which is about 4,000 adult cancer patients. And they looked at multiple different forms of exercise, whether it's aerobic, which is cardio focused, whether that's walking, biking, jogging, swimming, or resistance training, or seated-based exercise programming, or yoga or Tai Chi. And they looked at the time frame. It could be anywhere from a 3-week program to a 32-week program. And out of the 56 randomized control trials, 28 studies was on people who've been diagnosed with breast cancer. And then the other studies were related to those people who've been diagnosed with colorectal cancer, prostate, lymphoma, and multiple myeloma. And so what were the results of this meta-analysis? Well, they found that there was a reduction in fatigue in those that participated in the exercise intervention compared to those that were in the control group. So if you actually participate in one of their formal exercise programs, whether it's Tai Chi, yoga, a seated cardio class, resistance training class, if you participated in that, you were likely to notice a reduction in your fatigue level compared to those that have chosen that ended up not doing an exercise program. And just to follow up on this study, there have been other studies that have said, well, those that have been educated on energy conservation versus those that have done an exercise program, they've actually found people who've done an exercise program to be more likely to have a reduction in fatigue over the weeks of their program compared to those that just did an education-based talk. So I hope that's a bit motivating to be open to the idea of safely either returning to exercise or introducing yourself to exercise. This is a really great chart. Hopefully it's comfortable to see in your screen. So Cancer Care Ontario helps to essentially standardize protocols around chemotherapy medication, radiation therapy, as well as cancer and exercise. And so with the support of the ACSM guidelines, which is the American Standard of Cancer and Exercise, as well as the Canadian Exercise Physiologists, they recently came up with a prescription. So again, when we think about prescription, we look at it as a guideline versus things you have to accomplish. So it's really strongly believed that if people who've been diagnosed with cancer can get up to 90 minutes minimum of exercise through their week, it could help reduce some of these symptoms, including cancer-related fatigue. Their overall quality of life can improve, their physical function can improve, their anxiety, depression can reduce, and even their lymphedema can reduce, which is swelling of a limb. So essentially, what could that look like? Well, if you're choosing to do aerobic only, so just focusing on cardio, just going for walks, the suggestion is getting 3 days a week of 30 minutes per session at a moderate intensity. Moderate intensity looks like this. So on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being you're seated or you're lying down, 10 being you're sprinting on a treadmill. Essentially, for you, within yourself, you're looking at about a 4 or 5 out of 10 in terms of how much effort you're putting into your walk. So for some of us, that could be a brisk walk. It could be just a comfortable, fast pace where maybe you're slightly out of breath, but you're still able to talk to the person next to you comfortably. Maybe you're sweating a little bit, but you're still feeling comfortable and able to safely walk away from your house and return back. That's what moderate intensity means. And that level of moderate intensity will change with every week, every month that you continue to be regular with that routine that you have. Now, for people who prefer not to do aerobic exercise and they really want to work on resistance training, well, the recommendation is to get up to twice a week of resistance training, looking at about 2 sets per exercise, per muscle group, and trying to get between 12 to 15 repetitions. So if what I'm saying seems very new to you and you've never really heard what that means, it's a great opportunity to connect with a kinesiologist, an exercise physiologist, a physiotherapist to help you build a program that feels safe to you. And again, it's not about week 1 going into 90 minutes of exercise. It's starting off small. What feels realistic and accomplishable if you choose to do either 10 or 15 minutes a day of an outdoor walk at a moderate intensity and gently build up on that. So if this feels very intimidating, hopefully the opportunity is there to connect with either Wellspring to help support you with your desire to return back to exercise, or you're reaching out to your local gym or your local rehab center that has a physio or a kin to help you build that program for yourself. So I also want to share a little bit more as we're coming to a close about our cancer-related fatigue program. We specifically ran this program just at the beginning of the pandemic, and we wanted to run it as an online program because we knew if we are talking to people who have experienced fatigue, it's very difficult to get into a Wellspring center. With our commute, sometimes can be very challenging, or for those people who want to participate, but they're really exhausted and they need to participate from their bed or from the hospital if they're inpatient right now. We wanted it to be very accessible. So our program is actually 4 weeks. It's once a week for 4 weeks long. The 4 weeks look like this. Session 1, we talk about more details about what is cancer-related fatigue. And in that diagram that I showed you in the beginning of the program, where we talked about what are the factors that are relating to it, we talk about each one very specifically. And so if any of those factors are something that you're experiencing, I actually help to highlight who do you reach out to? How do you investigate this further? The second session is actually diving deep into how do you manage cancer-related fatigue. So we look at all the different factors that I suggested, but we actually spend time discussing all the different strategies around each topic. The third session is on nutrition and cancer-related fatigue, which is led by our amazing registered dietitian, Ann Williams, and she talks all things cancer-related fatigue. And then on the fourth session, we talk all things exercise and cancer-related fatigue. Each session is about an hour and a half. So typically I speak for about an hour or so, or the person leading the program. And then we always keep a buffer of 30 minutes in case there's questions or comments or anyone wants to share their own personal experience. And aside from this running as a 4-week series, we also consider this to be almost like a retreat, a mindfulness retreat. At the end of the session, you get access to the class notes, so you don't have to worry about documenting anything along the way, because that's a different layer of brain fog. But we also give you an opportunity to do some self-reflection homework that's done for the week if you have the energy to do it. And again, it helps to deep dive into your personal experience with your cancer-related fatigue. And so some other offerings that we have relating to some of our programs is we offer online and in-person exercise, online yoga, online and in-person Chi Life, online brain fog, and we recently started a new program called Breathing Wellness, which is really essentially looking at strategies. It's a 3-week series on strategies for those experiencing breathlessness. And so finally, I wanted to thank everyone so much for joining me in this program. If you connect with us at www.wellspring.ca, we have all our programs listed, and you're welcome to connect with us or ask us any questions along the way so we can better support you in this journey. Thank you so much, everyone, for taking the time to join me in this session today. Take care.
Welcome back. Thank you so much, Manesha, for just an incredible presentation on cancer-related fatigue. Thank you for sharing some of those amazing strategies. I hope that those that tuned in that might find some that are helpful for you or for you to share with your loved ones. Again, to check out more about the programming, about the cancer-related fatigue program and some of the other programming available at Wellspring. You can check out their website. It's wellspring.ca. Just double checking. Yeah, so wellspring.ca, so WELL spring.ca. And I will add that in the description, the video description as well, so that you can check out. But just a huge thanks to Wellspring Cancer Support and Manesha for that presentation. Also, another huge shout out to Lacey from Canadian Cancer Society for the first presentation. Wonderful as well. So that wraps up the first portion of our Community Connections event. Thank you again for joining us. In about 3 minutes, we're going to jump into our kitchen and we'll be joined by our registered dietitian, Daniela Fiorini, for a wonderful cooking and nutrition demonstration all about the benefits of the Mediterranean diet. We are very excited. Hopefully you stick around to join us. We'll be back in a couple minutes. And just a quick plug for next month's Community Connections event. So we will be joined by the UHN Sexual and Gender Diversity in Cancer Care team. They're going to be talking a little bit about their working group, and they're going to be joining us in the kitchen as well for Pride Month. So we have a very, very exciting class next month, and it'll be on Thursday, June 16th. So that'll be the third Thursday of the month. So mark it in your calendars. Hopefully you join us for that fun event. Okay, so thank you again for joining us today. We're going to get changed, chef coat on, and we'll be back in 2 minutes.